All right, what's up, DFS Army VIPs? You asked for it, you got it. Shark Chronicles comes to life as a podcast where we're sitting down with Burns, author of Winning the $1 Million Game, and you know him as the Shark Lab or Shark Chronicle, the Shark Chronicler. And we're going to go through your take on NFL Week 1 from a how to win the Millie Maker perspective. So we're going to take all the science, all the math, all the numbers that you've sort of studied and come up with, and we're going to see what players fit our approach this week. Burns, how you feeling, man? We're almost there.
Oh, it's way too quick. This offseason has gone by faster than I was expecting. You know, writing a book has been a very challenging endeavor to undertake, and it actually made the offseason go by super fast. And to all those that have bought the book, here's the look of it: Winning the $1 Million Game, the secrets to the DraftKings Millie Maker. You know, great book that people can utilize to understand how to position themselves better into contests. Maybe they didn't take the right step in the past, but now that they have a tool like this, they can utilize it to help them further themselves in the leaderboards.
One of the best things I personally, and we talked about this on the long form discussion right after you wrote the book, but my favorite, really one of the things I like most about some of the data sets you have is helping eliminate situations to reduce our player pool down a little bit, whittle down the choices, right? I think that's one of, a lot of people talk about like, who should we play? I think it's just important to understand what shouldn't we do when it comes to lineup construction. I think it's probably more important to know what shouldn't we do. So that's a big part of what the book talks about. And what I'd like to do today, Burns, is go position by position, NFL Week 1 slate, and discuss how the models, how the Shark Lab feels about the position group, where to target, and some avoid. So without further ado, let's get right into this, right? NFL, I'm going to put this on screen. You know what? I'm going to put this on screen. I'm just going to put my game tiles on the screen here. It'll give us a little reference, a little visual reference that we can look at. And let's see how I want to do this. How about that? There we go. Okay. So it's going to give us a little visual reference to take a look at here and try to understand, position by position where to go. So we're talking QBs right now. And what is the Shark Lab like this week? I know we like favored QBs. I mean, that's a big one, but high total favored QBs. Who's jumping off the board and why?
Well, we've talked about it all back on the back testing all off season. You really need a tool if you're looking at the domination station and you need an immediate tool. Look at the fantasy points per dollar, but then look at the rating. That rating is really great tool that we've developed here at DFS Army. And then obviously for me with high over under games, I just don't even look at the underdog quarterback at all. They're X'd out of my pool, so that's gonna say bye-bye to Tua this week. I'm not on Tua at all this week. I just don't see it. And the data from past Millie Maker winners justifies this. It's not a week for Tua this week. Could he do me wrong? Absolutely. And he's done people wrong before.
Would the theory here be, just from a logical point of view, that it's not so much that, because from a logical point of view, this is real. Like, it's not that Tua can't or won't have a great game.
Right.
I'm going to assume that the theory, or the reason the math kind of worked the way it did, is because the thought process is, if Tua is doing that, Herbert will probably outscore him anyway and still be the better Millie Maker QB. Do we think that that's the reason, or do you even bother to think through, the math is showing this, but why?
Yeah. Once the math has already predicted it for so many times in the past, it's just logically there for me to say no to an underdog quarterback in high over under games. Now, when we get to middling over under games, this is where quarterbacks can actually be utilized as an underdog. Utilizing them is actually a tournament strategy that is beneficial. And actually, we've seen it last year happen where even though the game was a 43.5 total game, it exploded in for many reasons. But Tua and Lamar actually exploded in that game, and it was a middling over
That's
under.
what I was going to say. I remember Tua specifically on the road at Baltimore as like one of the biggest offensive
right.
explosions of the year last year.
Yeah, and
But
both times, I believe he was in the Millie Maker winner both times, twice last year. And both times the over under was middling. It wasn't a high over under. And he was favored in one, and then he was an underdog in the other. So
interesting.
yeah.
All right, so no, Tua is off the board. What about Herbert? He is the quarterback of the highest total, and his team has the highest individual team total on this entire slate.
Yeah. Right now, he's probably my favorite quarterback in the entire slate right now.
Herbert.
You can utilize him with all three of his wide receivers, mix and match them. I
want
would
to
definitely
mention that on just a little DFS note, that it looks like Palmer will be the WR3, not Quentin Johnson. Not the rookie. It's going to be the vet as the WR3 on that team. Just random
did they
note.
come out with that already?
That is what I'm hearing from the beats as of now.
Okay.
That means they'll mix in Quentin Johnson as well, but that the starter will be Palmer. So just something for everybody to be aware of. It will be reflected in that projection once that news filters out, but I think it's important to note that.
That must have just came out because when I was doing the wide receiver corner matchup chart, it was still Quentin Johnson. So
yeah, I think it's gonna flip, and you'll see that it's Palmer that will get that start.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean Palmer can be left off if that's the case. I'm having a hard time with Mike Williams this week. He's going up against Xavier Howard. That is a beast matchup.
You don't think they're going to move Xavier over to Keenan Allen?
Right now, they got him shadowing Mike Williams. I don't know if he's going to go down in the slot with Keenan at all. But if he is on Mike Williams, it's almost a no dice for Mike Williams because of the fact that Xavier Howard will shut you down. And Mike Williams does have the ability to be shut down. He's been shut down multiple times in the past. So a good stack here, and it could be an under-owned stack, is potentially the utilizing the tight end with Keenan Allen or going Eckler with the tight end here, because Eckler's going to see a lot of passing work as well out of the backfield, and Miami's not very good against pass catching running backs.
Yeah, you can absolutely stack Eckler with Herbert. So if we're looking for stacks there, I would say that you probably can't afford an Eckler Keenan Herbert combo, though. That is possibly too expensive to be viable. And you kind of want to have the bring back with Reek, but that's going to be pricey too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Who else at the QB position are we looking at according to Shark Lab rules?
I do like Jalen Hurts this week. He's popping for us. Even though he's going up to New England, and New England has been historically a difficult place to play with a difficult defense, I just think the running prowess of Jalen Hurts, and you got two of probably the best wide receivers in the game with AJ Brown, and it's tough. This game is tough because you think, oh man, this is a tough defense, but in all reality, I mean, they do give up a lot of points to the quarterback in 2022. They gave up the 18th most points to the quarterback position in 2022. So it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. That and if you're not too high on this game from a quarterback position, or Jalen Hurts, you can always stick with him on the cash games and your single entries for sure, and then utilize other quarterbacks for your large field GPPs.
Yeah, Hurts feels like a really good single entry play. Lamar Jackson, big favorite, most expensive QB on the slate, non-competitive game. How is that looked upon?
This is one of the games that I am toying back and forth between. And the reason why is that that -10 spread is really tricky in how they're going to utilize it. I love Lamar Jackson with Andrews this week. I think it has the potential, but what's driving me away from utilizing Lamar is the fact that Houston was actually pretty good against the quarterback position in 2022. But Lamar is a running quarterback, and he can get loose, and he can score with his legs. So I like him for that, and I like Andrews as a stacking partner with him, and I don't think you have to go much further than that.
Yeah, definitely no bringbacks on that one. I'm a little, listen, I love Monken. I think one of the Ravens are a mystery team. We don't know. What they've done in the past, it's not definitive that they'll continue to do that on offense. But I will tell you that certain teams like the Ravens traditionally do not press the issue when they're ahead in a game. So I don't think that leads to a 40+ point outcome for Lamar. Personally, I don't like Lamar this week for that reason. I think he needs a competitive environment to shine. I don't see him risking life and limb, taking dangerous runs, diving for an end zone when he doesn't need to. I just don't think they're going to do that. So, but again, I haven't seen Monken, and opinions will change. This is what's so crazy about week one, Burns. The world will open up. Opinions will change so much when we see actual football on the field that we might have total different opinions about all this stuff. But for now, all I can go off of is the tradition of this team and what they've done. We've got Justin Fields taking on Jordan Love. I'm now hearing that Jordan Love will be without Christian Watson maybe in that game and lacking some serious offensive weapons. Certainly makes me like Chicago to cover that -1 a little bit more. I love Fields. So my question for you is, is Fields does he pop as a strong target this week? Packers defense is pretty messed up outside of like Yair Alexander. But outside of that, they're a little bit not that great right now. A lot of new players, a lot of mediocre players, a lot of players who were benched last year are starting again this year, and I'm not seeing the best information about that defense. Do we like Fields here? I mean, Fields, I know he can do it anytime, and I don't think they will hold back on him. They want to beat the Packers. They want to beat the Packers. I don't know where Bobby Wow, but like if you had a Bears fan, they want to beat the Packers. That's their Super Bowl.
Yeah, I hear that. It's kind of like us with Philly and the Giants with Philly and Dallas, right?
Dallas even more than Philly because you ain't beating Philly.
No.
Beat Dallas.
When I started researching this slate when it first came out and the salaries first came out, I was really eager to see where they priced Jordan Love. I thought he was priced right, but I also really liked the over-under in the game back then. Since that point in time, the over-under has been declining, and I'm not liking that one bit for this game whatsoever. And it's kind of getting me towards where I just don't want to play the quarterbacks at all in this game, simply because of the fact that these two quarterbacks are in a very low over-under game, and it could be a running back game this game, and it could be seen as a low-scoring game.
That's what I think the run. I think you nailed it there. Not that the Chicago side is going to be that heavy on the running back, but it just makes sense now, especially with Christian Watson now maybe not playing, that the Packers just want to run and play slow, and that the Bears oblige that style and say, you know what, we're comfortable playing this style of game too.
Yeah, I'd have to be sold on this game. Like somebody would have to come up with a significant reason for me to be on this game from a quarterback standpoint. And it's one that I'm like, I have it in red ink on my article right now before I post it, like, because I always put everything in red to start, and then I change it to black when I'm like, okay, this is solidified. Um, but this one's in red. This is a tentative one for me right now, and I just don't know. I'm iffy on it.
Um,
There's quarterbacks in other games that are in better positions, I believe.
I think you have to play. I'm trying to look at the line movement chart here and just because I agree. I was like originally much earlier in the offseason, I was like, this is the game. It's gonna pop. And now I feel like I'm going away from it a little bit. Let me see if I can find the total money line. Hang on. Over, I mean, it was 43.5. So it only moved a little bit. It is lower now at 42. It was at 43.5, I think, at least like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a game where I thought it was going to go to 45. If it went to there, I was going to be all over this game, both sides, every which way.
I think you got to play.
Um,
I think you got to play Fields a little bit every week.
you could almost, in reality, I think on a 42.5 point game, over under with a 1.5 spread, I think you could almost play Fields with just one guy
Yep.
stacked, or you could go naked with him real easily.
No naked. Naked doesn't win a tournament. It's never won. And I'm never doing it. Never. But stack with one. I think I haven't found an example. Burns, we looked at it like we just did 2 years worth of back testing, and there has never been a naked QB, so I'm not doing that. But stack with one, really good. And my research says that Cole Kmet would be a really good candidate for that one. That's where the weakness of the Packers secondary is safeties, and they have terrible safety play, and that is probably a good spot for Cole Kmet. Let's keep going through this QB list because we got a lot of guys to cover here. Another big game. There's a few more big games here that we got to really get into. One of them is Bengals Browns, and Bengals Browns, the second highest total. This fits a lot of your criteria, the Shark Lab criteria. 47.5 point total. The Bengals are on the road as 2.5, not 3, 2.5 point favorites. So they are within the 3 point margin on the favored underdog scale. You've got Burrow has won multiple milli makers over the last couple of years. Watson has been a stud over the course of his career at times. Both teams have running backs that can be relied upon. So vulture level running backs on both teams. But both teams, I mean, there are some other intangibles like the Browns have pretty well handled the Bengals for the last couple of years, really well. I don't know if that's predictive that they'll keep doing that, but it is of note that that has happened. So with all that being said, I would say I would assume Burrow is popping on the model, and I don't know what Deshaun is, but I would imagine Burrow is definitely one of the plays this week.
Yeah, I mean, this game in general is just popping. Cleveland was one of the worst teams against the run last year. So, obviously that's popping there. But, Burrow really hadn't played that well last year against Cleveland. I mean, he had a decent game. It wasn't great. When I think they traveled, when it was actually, I think it was at home. So I'm kind of up in the air on this game as well. Only because of the fact that I just don't think Burrow plays well against Cleveland. But I have another day to think about it. So, but it is a good play. I
Read
would
the
not.
article and find out tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
What about
I would
Watson? Yeah,
say
can you play
I'm not
Watson?
on Watson at
No.
all. It's a high over under game for the entire week. It's the second highest, like you said, second or third highest. It's not a Watson week. I think what will happen is that Cleveland's going to get shut down in the passing game this week, and I just don't see it. I don't know. I'm not on Deshaun just yet.
Deshaun could surprise everybody and go and become vintage Watson
He
and put
could.
up a 30, 35, and it's like, oh my God, it's vintage Watson. let's also not forget that crappy QBs every once in a while pop off, like Carson Wentz week 1 of last season, and you're like, I didn't even think about playing him.
Right.
So there's that component as well. This game does stand out as something you want a little. The thing I like about Watson, I don't necessarily like Watson, but I really like the cost and upside of his weapons. And when I start to, it's like a bottom up situation where I was like, I like Amari Cooper, I like David Njoku, I like the price, even Donovan Peoples-Jones, the Peoples wide receiver, I like him too. So in a stack with Watson, not standalone, but I like those other two players, even as standalone plays. So I started to think, well, if I like Njoku a little bit and I like Cooper a little bit, might as well drag Watson along with him. But again, underdog, high scoring game, probably the better play is the Burrow side of this one. One interesting note that I learned about Burrow in my research on the stack side of it, because I know you hadn't done the stacks yet, so I got some stack notes. It almost never happens that T. Higgins and Chase hit in the same game. As a matter of fact, it may have happened once in the Burrow tenure where both of them made at least GPP level value against salary in the same game. But that's one out of maybe 35, 40 games. Never else have they both hit in the same game. So with that being said, Burrow +2, but it's probably Chase or Higgins and second guy, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, Irv Smith, I guess, or tight end, right? So that's kind of how I see it. Any thoughts to that, Burns?
No, that's good stuff right there. I was actually going away from either one of them this week. You know, Chase has the better matchup this week than Higgins, just from a number standpoint. But they are both being shadowed. So,
I like the
Denzel
shadow
Ward.
though. Chase Burns the shadow. Like you cannot be covered.
Oh no, Chase is just too good. But T, on the other hand,
Yeah.
if he's being shadowed, he could get shut down.
Uh,
So it does open up some, aspects where you could go Irv Smith
I,
with him.
I love that you're saying the shadow, because this is where I had researched this as well. And part of what's happening in Cleveland is they switch from a primary zone approach to a man coverage scheme. And I think that will help their run defense, which was horrific last year. They're going to have an extra man in the box, so to speak. But Jamar Chase is number 3 ranked in the NFL against man coverage. Like he is the guy that you want when it's man cover. Like Diggs, there's a couple these shifty kind of elite cornerbacks, elite wide receivers, unless it's Sauce Gardner, who he'll shut you the fuck down. But these other guys, they can beat man coverage. And so it bodes well for Jamar Chase is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I was thinking the same exact thing. Like, I will have a lot of Jamar Chase this week.
Yeah. And some Burrow. All right. So a couple other games that stand out to me. And then you tell me if I kind of missed one here. But the next one that I want to talk about is Tampa at the Vikings. Now, the Vikings, the Vikings have a 25.5 point team total, which is as good as it gets on the slate. That is at the top level of the slate. And they have the great weapons on the Viking side and lots to choose from. And I don't normally like to play Kirk Cousins in GPPs. He's not like normally a guy that I use. But, and it's a Cousins, I think, +2 scenario in my mind here. But are we on this game? Is this fool's gold? 45.5 point total. And can you play the underdog side?
I'm not playing the underdog side in the quarterback situation here. Baker Mayfield just doesn't do it for me. Has he won Millie Makers in the past for people? Yes. But
not for me, but I once I feel like no, actually that was Mitch Trubisky. I still want to go back to that time. I called it Trubisky breakout.
He actually won me a King of the Beach ticket, so I can't go wrong with that. But Baker Mayfield just doesn't do it for me this week. Not going all the way up into Minnesota. I think Kirk Cousins is actually in play for me this week as the favorite quarterback. Pairing him with Justin Jefferson and potentially Hawkinson is going to be a very pricey. So do that with what you will. But Jordan Addison is the new shiny toy on the offense, as well as you still have KJ Osborne, who did have some good games last year. I think he had one or two top level games last year where he had a couple of breakout performances. So you could see something like that this year. But Justin Jefferson is the king in this
I mean,
offense, and it
TJ
goes through him.
Hawkinson had a game or two last year where if you didn't have Hawkinson, we're not even having a discussion about winning a tournament, period. So,
Exactly.
yeah, would it be wild if it was Hawkinson Addison? Like a different combo. But
very, very could happen. I mean, Addison being shiny new toy, everybody's going to go after Justin Jefferson, and then they're going to be like, oh, he's a rookie. We'll see what he's got. And he burns somebody in the secondary, and all of a sudden you got a touchdown for 50, 60 yards, and he's breaking the slate at 5K.
Could totally happen. I like the Cousins call. I will have a little bit of Baker just because I like a bet on Tampa. So once I'm already kind of leaning that maybe the number is a little bit wrong, I think Tampa might be slightly less bad than people think. So I kind of like it, but it's just that was my silly for the Millie stupid stack of the week. I threw a little Baker in there. I just love the price, and I like Godwin. So there's a couple little reasons, and I love Rashad White in this game. So
yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay is a pass funnel defense. They funnel it to the pass. They're pretty stout against the run. So I know there's a lot of people talking about Alexander Mattison in the offseason. I don't think this is the week for him. I think you have to pass on Alexander Mattison simply because of the fact that Tampa Bay can shut down the run.
Yeah, especially with Vita Vea healthy and in the game. That's really the guy. He's like two. They get an extra player when Vita is on the field because he's like two. It's not fair.
And he's healthy.
Yeah.
He wasn't really healthy last year. He didn't even play much last year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why their rush defense went slightly down a little bit last year, but it should be back to normal, traditional goodness this season. So I agree. Although Madison will get all the touches, the matchup is less good than it probably will be most other weeks. Doesn't mean he can't break out. Doesn't mean he can't have a good game. Just reduces the likelihood of that happening. All right. So continuing on through the QB group here. There's a couple other names that have high total games like Trevor Lawrence and Russell Wilson. I want to get your take on those guys, as well as Geno Smith. So that'd be probably the last three that pop a little bit from a game has a high total, and why not play these guys? So Trevor Lawrence, 25.5 point team total, going up against the Colts team that, again, I'm not sure that they're going to be competitive in this one.
Yeah, exactly. With Jonathan Taylor now on the PUP list, they're going to have to go to Deion Jackson, I believe is his name, at the running back position. Yeah. With a brand new quarterback, Anthony Richardson, is he going to eventually be good? Probably, but this is a top end defense for Jacksonville Jaguars, and for a rookie quarterback to come up and go against them in week one is really tough. So I almost think that the ability for Indianapolis to keep up with Jacksonville, and this could actually be a defensive game for Jacksonville Jaguars because of that. And so I could see, some secondary stacks of Christian Kirk and, the defense here, or you could utilize Ingram with the defense. Calvin Ridley's been out for, a long time. It's been a long time since we've seen Calvin Ridley in a uniform on the NFL playing surface. So I'm kind of teetering between, do I like him enough to play him versus, okay, I'm going to just X him out. I don't X anybody out, but I just, It's just like it's up in the air with him. But I do like Trevor Lawrence in this game, and I do think you could actually stack him with Kirk and Ingram and have him as that two-way stack there. And then if you don't have Lawrence in lineups, I would definitely utilize their defense in this game.
Yeah, I think I love Trevor Lawrence this year and all of that. I think the biggest concern is I don't think that the Colts are going to be competitive here. So it's like, can they do it in a non-competitive game? And I tend to think that this setup favors Travis Etienne and Jaguars defense a little bit more. So that's kind of the way I'm going. Let's press on here. The other QB I mentioned was Geno, and then of course Russell Wilson. No one wants to play Russ, but I don't know. So Geno Smith again, non-competitive game. I feel like we talked about this a little bit off air, but I'll just kind of convey my thoughts on that one, which was Seattle just doesn't press the issue if they don't have to. That is just the Pete Carroll way. They will not, like, unless they would have to transform into a whole different approach to do that. They're just gonna, if they get a lead and they feel that they're dominant, they're just gonna run the football, maintain the lead, and kill the clock. They don't like stab the knife in your back. And we need them to put the knife in to get the 35, 40 points from the Seattle offense that we need. Listen, I get that they're projected to score 25. We don't win a tournament unless they're over 35 or 40. We need those extra 2 touchdowns, ideally going to our quarterback, to have a shot at winning $1 million. So I was kind of thinking with this game, it's game stacks or bust. If I'm playing Geno, I'm bringing it back with Akers or Van Jefferson. It's that simple. Or even it's the worst one, but Higbee. But one of those guys. And Geno stack now, the challenge with him is it's Metcalf, Lockett, JSN, and some tight ends. And Metcalf and Lockett are both really expensive and don't seem to go off at the same time. So I'm not really sure how to stack Geno and feel good about it.
Yeah, this one's tricky, right? Especially with everything you just said. I mean, this is one of those games that's going to be a real tricky aspect to play. The Rams actually were fairly competent against the run in 2022. Is that going to hold up in 2023? Yet to be seen. But Ken Walker is a very good running back. He probably will see lion's share of the carries here, but he's got Charbonnet behind him. We'll see how that all plays out, how they scheme for Charbonnet and in the offense here as the season goes along. You nailed it right on the nose with the running game on for Los Angeles. Akers is in a very good matchup here. I mean, Seattle was atrocious in 2022 against the run. So I'm loving him this week from that perspective. But you're right. It is a tough one for Geno to get there. If if they can't get to 35, 40 points in this game, and how did they get there? Metcalf's going to have a monster game or Lockett. And we've actually seen Lockett have more monster games than Metcalf in the past. And then we got a wrinkle with JSN, It's going to be tough to see how this offensive scheme plays out for Seattle as the season goes along. It's going to be real tricky. This 3-headed monster with the wide receivers. So it's becoming more and more to where I'm with you. Game stacks are nothing with this game.
Yeah, it's just Seattle. I used to, for years, I would not play Russ outside of a game stack either, because that's the only time his games blew up. And there's years worth of evidence and data to back it up. Now, again, anything can change. It's a different quarterback than Russell Wilson, but I went back and looked at Geno's games last year, and there were not blow up spots that didn't blow up on both sides. So to me, if there ever was a team that screams game stack or nothing, it is Geno and Seattle. I'm looking down the shitter list here. The only other QB that's popping in my model here, or let's say in the considerations, is Russell Wilson for me. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. The ownership looks pretty low here at under 5%, which is actually higher than I thought it'd be, but like it's pretty low ownership. It feels gross, but it is the Raiders. They're terrible. I think the Raiders defensively are terrible, but offensively are good enough to keep up, which is the ingredients are here for a shootout that no one was expecting.
Oh, I completely agree with you. Las Vegas is terrible on the defensive side of the ball. 2022 alone, they were one of the worst against the quarterback, but they were fairly competent against wide receivers and tight ends, and then they were really bad against the running back position. So, you know, Javonte Williams, what do we make of him coming off of a massive injury that took him completely out of last season? Is he over that? Who knows? It remains to be seen whether he can cut like he used to be able to cut. I don't know. There's so many up in the air situations that we have to see in week one and how it all plays out. But, Russ is probably going to be in my player pool because I believe that the fact that the Las Vegas Raiders are terrible on the defensive front. It's just going to be who does he go to because, Jerry Jeudy is probably going to be out for this one, or if he's already been ruled out. But it brings into question, can Cortland Sutton carry the load as the WR1 in this game? Or are they going to pepper Mims with some targets here? And does Dolchik actually come to play and, rise up in this environment against the Raiders at home at Mile High? These are all questions that will be answered on the field on Sunday. And, I do like a piece on the other side of the ball that I think may go under own this week, but we can save that one for
spoiler
down the
alert,
road here a little bit.
Running back discussion. And it's like,
yeah,
spoiled it. Spoiler alert, it's Jacobs. I do like the bring back option in this game as well. So if I'm playing Russ, I do think that that's another game that I probably want a piece from the Raiders. There aren't that many Raiders pieces that I like at all. You mentioned probably the best one is Josh Jacobs, and that would probably be the way I would go. I don't think I need to force in Jacoby Myers, and I'm not high on Devontae Adams going up against Pat Surtain.
Yeah, not against Pat Surtain. He's an extremely good corner.
Yeah, I'm not high on that spot at all. I think that covers the QB position. Did I miss anybody that the Shark Lab is excited about?
No, I know a lot of people are excited about Sam Howell at 4.9K on DraftKings. Not really sure what his FanDuel salary is, but it's probably in like the
Super
low
cheap.
sixes.
Yeah.
If not in the fives. Be wary of Sam Howell here. It's a very low over-under game, and what we've seen is that quarterbacks in low over-under games don't fare so well as an overall fantasy score. So I know Arizona's coming across the entire nation onto the East Coast from Arizona, so just be wary of this. I don't think Sam Howell's going to get you there this week. He may get you there in a week where it's a better situation, but this is such a low over/under total that I'm completely away from him, and obviously I'm away from the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals this week.
Yeah, I'm on board with what you're saying. I liked him earlier, in the offseason almost, and I like him this year a little bit. But 38-point total is, I don't ever recall a game with a total this low just producing a tournament winner. So I just think it's probably, maybe an acceptable cash game punt more than somebody that is going to win us the big contest this week.
Yeah, and I mean, we can essentially say that for the Pittsburgh-San Francisco game. We could say it for the Atlanta-Carolina game, and then even the New Orleans-Tennessee game. They're just so low on the over-unders that they're just not there from a perspective to utilize those quarterbacks.
Totally agree. I used the strategic camera off just now to sneeze. Secrets of video production.
You got that new camera working?
What's that? No, this is my original camera. The new one is, listen, I got a whole setup going for that. All my other shows this week have been on the new camera, but I'm using my original for this one. Sorry.
Nice.
Okay, wait, let me flick the light on. Oh, okay, there we go. All right. So let's talk a little bit running back. Okay, what are the rules according to the Shark Lab in the book, Winning the $1 Million Game?
Mhm.
Buy the book on Amazon, link description. Link on the DFS Army website. Go get it. Adam Burns, Winning the $1 Million Game. But what does the Shark Lab say about the running back position in general? And how does that relate to this week's slate? Is there any set of guidelines to picking a running back?
Yeah, generally you want to pick favorites, but there are times where underdogs will get you there, and those underdogs are the away underdogs. We do like home favorites a lot. We want games where the implied team total is 24 or greater. And for underdogs, we want the implied team total to be 19 or greater. We want to target those defenses that are pretty much your low end defenses against the run to give up a lot of points against the running back position. So I mean that that kind of seems wow, where's the light bulb there, right? And also
play running backs against bad run defenses.
And you want to play running backs against defenses that don't apply a significant amount of pressure up in to get into the running backfield. So those are also your defenses that are ranked 15 to 32nd in the league against the running back position on a defensive line front. So with all those in mind, there are things that come up that we do like. This week, I think we kind of lend towards it, so I'll pick it off right here. Is the Las Vegas Denver game. Josh Jacobs is in a very good spot here against Denver.
Road dog against a defense that could not stop anything last year.
Absolutely. And he's just screaming, play me. And I believe he is currently at 7.32% on the domination station for ownership percentage. That's obviously going to change between now and Sunday. But if that is his total ownership percentage, or if it's 10% less and we're getting him at that, it's going to be a profitable day if you utilize him in your lineups, especially in large field GPPs. You can go away from him in your small field single entry contests and go more towards the guys that are going to be your no doubters, right? We got a couple of them on the slate this week.
I like it. I need those no doubters too. All right, so let's continue on in the elite sphere. Does the Shark Lab, love, an Austin Eckler? He's at home, in a high total game, but very expensive. What other expensive running backs are popping in that model?
Well, in the offseason, we saw a very low amount of running backs in the 8,000 salary range to the 9,000 salary range that were actually utilized heavily in winning Millie Maker lineups over the course of the 2022 season. Obviously, Eckler is in play here. He is a very good play on this slate against the Miami defense that is porous against pass catching running backs. But you also have to take salary into consideration, and he's just not going to show up in a lot of your lineups unless you force him in. So taking that into consideration, my way of playing with Eckler is I'm going to pair him with Herbert this week, and that'll be my utilization of him.
I like that approach. He makes it in the flex or some other spot like that. It is really interesting that running backs, I have a theory on why they don't show up. Even it's like when you're drafting your season long league, running back, a lot of times it's you have these it's a wide spread where you get these first and second rounders, but the difference at running back and wide receiver is that wide receiver, those studs produce every single week, where running back, you kind of get these big games from the 5 and the cheaper guys. And if Austin Eckler at 8,400 on DraftKings. He needs, and he could get there, but he's 32 fantasy points just to keep you in pace. But 40 if he's like, oh shit, I can't win because I didn't have him. Right? There's a difference between keeping pace with a tournament winner, and that's about 32, 33 fantasy points on DraftKings. But in a, oh no, I didn't play him and now I get no money, that he needs to really hit 40 plus. Main reason being, if, cheaper random James Conner at 6K or Aaron Jones or Cam Akers or Najee Harris or Kenny Walker or Damian Pierce or any one of these guys, they put up like a 26 for 6. Well, then the 31 for 3,000 more just isn't necessary. So he has to outscore every other running back on the entire slate significantly to make value. And that's the challenge of paying all the way up at running back, where I think you can find cheaper running backs that go off. It's really hard to find like a 5K wide receiver. Maybe that, I don't know. That's my theory as to why. We noticed also that really high priced wide receivers don't wind up in nuts lineups either. So I think it's just a general thing where the mid salary guys going for 30 are like 6X, where those guys going for 30 are only 4X, and you need 6X is really what it comes down to. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very cost prohibitive for you to utilize that high of a salaried player, whether it be a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, even into the tight end position too. It's very cost prohibitive for you. So you have to make some major changes within your lineup. So there you become utilizing a 3K player at the wide receiver range, or even at the tight end range, which is more popular. But 3K wide receiver isn't going to get you there as much as a 5K or even a 4K wide receiver. So you got to weigh it.
I think that's a lot of what it is. It's funny because the high priced lock button running back is great for your cash lineup. You want to put him in there and lock down that 25. Like Austin Eckler is probably not leaving this game under 18 fantasy points. That's about, in my mind, the floor. And in your cash lineup, okay,
yeah,
I'll take it. I want those 20 points. Let me put them in there. If I can get a 30, great. And I'm just logging points in cash. But in tournaments, it's like, no, let's take some mid shots on some guys that have a little wider range of outcomes. But if we hit all of those guys, we're getting 5 and 6X, not the 4X numbers we can get. You cannot get a 6X from Austin Eckler. I mean, it's a 60, 20, or 32. You're talking 45. You can, but he doesn't do that very often.
no.
Let's go through the running back position a little quicker because I'm seeing how the time is running, and we have a lot of time. We've gone over these games. So let's really just, you point me to the Shark Lab best plays at the top of the price range. You mentioned Josh Jacobs. Give me a couple more of the middling. Who else is the Shark Lab on? Just run us through them.
Yeah, so Cam Akers in the Seattle LA Rams game. We already talked about that.
Another road dog. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. As well as Aaron Jones for Green Bay this week. Going into Chicago, Chicago wasn't very good against the running back, pass catching running backs, not just your regular running backs. This is just pass catching. So they were very porous against pass catching running backs in 2022, where they ranked 27th in the league. Moving down the list, obviously, J.K. Dobbins here against Houston. But you got to be wary here. The weariness here in this game is, does Lamar Jackson vulture the touchdowns by the goal line for running them in? And he runs in 2, where those could have went to JK and produced a higher fantasy score for J.K. Dobbins. That's got to be in the back of your mind here. But J.K. Dobbins could have a big game here where he hits, he could potentially hit 4 or 5X in this game if all things go right and they actually feed him the ball down by the end zone.
2 touchdowns, 100 yards. You're talking 27 fantasy points.
It's doable.
Which is a solid 4+ X. And if there's a reception or 2, you're at 5X.
It's very doable in this game against Houston at home. The other games that I like, Rachaad White, Tampa Bay going on the road against Minnesota. Minnesota, they weren't very good against pass catching backs. Rachaad White is a pass catching back. They gave up a lot of points in 2022 to the running back position. They were 25th in the league to the running back position in fantasy points allowed. So I see this game being a good game for Rachaad White as well, and he is at 5.5K, so he's going to give you some cost savings there. Another running back in that Cleveland-Cincinnati game that I really like is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is going to carry the load in this offense this year for the running back position. They don't really have many guys behind him, if at all, that are proven. So you're going to see Joe Mixon carry a lot of the load. Plus, he's a pass catching back. And Cleveland was 29th in the league at allowing fantasy points against the running back position. And they were 19th in the league against pass catching backs last year in 2022. And we talked about, Josh Jacobs, but some of the numbers on that is, Denver was 22nd in the league, allowing fantasy points to the running back position last year, but they were pretty decent against pass catching running backs. But I can see Josh Jacobs getting it in between the numbers, and he can get it at the goal line. I could see Josh Jacobs exploding in this game for 2 or 3 touchdowns down by the goal line.
What about ETN?
I thought about ETN. I've been toying with him this week. I'm not 100% sold, but this article doesn't come out till tomorrow, so it could actually go in that way with ETN. And he is somebody that's on my mind. He's been on my mind all week. Him and Lawrence. I just want to kind of play around with a lineup or two to see how I like it before I actually put this, turn this red language into black.
There we go.
Solidify him.
Yeah, it's just, he's priced a little better than a Josh Jacobs. He's right there with Mixon and Dobbins at the same price. And I know what you mean. It's hard to kind of see ETN destroying salary-based expectations, but it's a good setup for it's definitely a good setup for the running game of the Jaguars. They haven't had the 30-point running back explosion game with ETN yet. So that's kind of what you need. 7 for 28. You got to be at the 30 points level, which is in the realm, but
he could get there.
Yeah, it's in the realm.
And they in Indianapolis lost a really good linebacker in the offseason to the Giants. So there could be some openings there in the secondary, in between the defensive line and the secondary, where you could see some space. So yeah, I'm almost probably talking myself into it right now, but yeah.
Are there any Shark Lab rules for the wide receiver position as far as like game totals, spreads? I kind of remember in our discussion of the book that the wide receiver position was much more wide open than everything else.
It generally is, because you have so much, you have a lot larger pool of players, but we're still wanting that volume. We want to see a lot of volume within our wide receiving position. We want to see, obviously, it's similar to the running backs. We want to see our implied team totals of 24 or greater. We want, for our favorites, our underdogs, we want to see 22 and less. But, in 2022, we saw the away dogs were actually utilized heavily by winning Millie Maker lineups, as well as away favorites, more so than we did see home favorites and home dogs. So, you can attack that. You can attack those away dogs and favorites during this course of this week. So, and that's pretty much how we're attacking them. And we got some home favorites as well that we do like. I can run through them. I do like one wide receiver in this Tampa Minnesota game on the Tampa side is Chris Godwin. I think he can actually get there this week. He's really low price for him. 5.9K is pretty low for him. We generally see him in the 6.5 to 7K range, generally when he's starting to hit his stride. But we'll see how that all shakes out.
You know who else loves him? The rating.
Mm-hmm. I did see that.
I think the rating is being utilized heavily here, Burns.
He's got the highest rating at 100 for the week.
He got the hundo. He looks so much better if if Mike Evans is limited in any way, look out.
Oh, yeah, exactly. If Mike Evans is hobbling before the game, or they decide to take him out during before the game, this is a Godwin game all day long. And it may not come out to like 12 to 1 o'clock when lineups lock, and then all those guys that didn't have him in their lineups are screwed, and he blows up for 25, 30 points. Could happen. He's actually done it before. And I think last year he actually had a really good game against Minnesota as well. So
I'm seeing some other high rating players. Olave looks like he could be chalky on the slate. 14% prediction at the moment for ownership. Why not Olave? 6,500.
yeah, and Tennessee wasn't very good against the wide receiver position last year, so it could actually lead towards them having Olave having a really good game. I could see Olave at around 25, 26 points, which could get you there. Is he going to blow up for 35 points? I don't know. That may not happen with Carr as your quarterback.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on almost how they utilize the other players too. Like, is Michael Thomas going to come back in and command, targets? So there are extenuating circumstances, but Olave, just talent wise, is crazy good. So he's gonna pass a lot of the stuff. But yeah, I feel safer. I think I feel safer with Godwin at his price,
especially in cash. You save that, what is it, $600 there. Other games like here, obviously I love the other side of the Minnesota Tampa Bay game with Justin Jefferson and Addison. Those are two good wide receivers. I think they're going to actually pair really well this year, where they're going to, a lot of the action is going to go to Jefferson. Then you're going to see Addison blow up in one game, and then they're going to try to get back to Addison, and then Justin Jefferson blows up. It could happen. I just really want to see how Kirk is going to utilize Addison in the offense this year, see how he pinpoints him. But yeah, Jefferson is the man here, but Addison's going to be a nice complementary piece here. And I do like Hawkinson as well. So,
scrolling down the list, there's a couple of situations that pop. Do you have any other sort of heavy? I mean, we could just get into every wide receiver. I don't want to do that, but do you have any heavy leans on this elite section? And then I was going to kind of ask you your thoughts on some of these replacement situations. Like, I really love Van Jefferson, for example, with no Cooper Kupp at that price. I really like Cortland Sutton with Jerry Jeudy out. How do you feel about those spots in general? Does the Shark Lab metric point at those situations, or we just got to use our logic and say, hey, targets up, price low, roster these guys?
Yeah, still looking at individual players, more so on the whole holistic side of each game right now. But when we get into tomorrow, it'll start to delve down into the players for me. I know we were talking about earlier, Mike Williams might be in a bad situation here. He's going against Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard, he's been hobbled by injuries lately in recent years.
Yeah, he wasn't considered somebody to fear last year because he was hurt all the time. Is he fully healthy at this point?
If he's a full go and they're going to utilize him as a shadow, I almost see it as he's being fully healthy on the playing field. But, it's the cut that these guys have to make. And is he fully healed? That's something that we'll have to keep our eyes out for Xavier Howard this year. And if it becomes where he's not fully healed, you can attack him. So Mike Williams could be, you at 5.7K, I would definitely have shots at him in this game. Keenan Allen is also in play here in this Chargers game against Miami. I don't really see much from much happening there from Miami's secondary to stop Keenan Allen from having his normal 11 to 13 catches in this game.
Keenan should do his thing, but Keenan hasn't crossed 30 fantasy points in like years. So once, and he rarely. It just hasn't happened that where you're like, oh no, I didn't play Keenan. Like I said, I didn't play Keenan. I didn't win this week. Like that is not the reason. He's more
he used to do it more. He's just not doing it as enough anymore.
And maybe that's just random luck variance of it's just touchdowns. It's really the difference between a lot of the stuff is did he score a touchdown or not? DraftKings, if you look at the way they salary these guys, their algorithm is very clear. They look at past performance and they look at like the ceiling. They effectively price you to a ceiling where most players will hit it 25% of the time. Your studs are priced to where 1 out of 4 times they'll make tournament value, so to speak. And pretty much every player is priced that way. But then there are certain players that are priced in such a way that they never make tournament value, but they have a high floor. That's your Julian Edelman style guys, your Keenan Allens. So I think one of the things we need to look at when we're looking at the player pool as a whole is understanding that. Listen, Justin Jefferson, he's great. He's the man. He's 1 out of 4. He's going to make value. And the rest of the times he won't. Every player. No one can do it every single time because that's just not how the distribution of scores works in like any sort of consistent pattern. So with that being said, let's I know you have some tight end hard and fast rules, and I really like the hard and fast rules. So let's jump over to tight end, and we're looking for home favored tight ends. Is it just favorites? Does it have to be at home?
We want tight ends we want favored tight ends, obviously. We want tight ends that are in games where the implied team total is 24 or greater. We love our home favorite tight ends. And we also don't mind on a holistic level the home dogs, but I'd rather attack the home favorites instead as a holistic level. And then coming in a brief, short second is the away dogs. You can actually get to it on the away dogs as well. So we've seen some winning lineups with away dogs. So tight ends this week that I'm intrigued by or actually going to have a lot in my pool is in the Chargers game, Gerald Everett. I'll have Mark Andrews in player pool. TJ Hawkinson.
I thought TJ Hawkinson would be a screaming Burns buy.
Oh, it is a screaming one. I'm just going down the list though. Goddard is in the listing. And then one that I got that he's an underdog, but he's going into Atlanta, and Atlanta's just not very good against tight ends, is Hayden Hurst in an offense that he may have to be utilized heavily because of the fact that, Bryce Young is a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterbacks do tend to, utilize the tight end and the running backs more often than they'll utilize throwing the ball down the field more. So I could see Hayden Hurst at 3K, he could pay off fairly easily there. And I also like Ingram with Jacksonville too. So
a little pricey, Ingram. I have Hurst on my list just for the red zone usage, touchdown upside, but I don't expect much. I want 3 catches and a touchdown, and I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm not heavily on. I know you like Njoku this year, holistically, I this week I'm not on him. He's a home dog. It's just not there for me. I think the way this game's going to go, I don't know if he's going to get there to win you a tournament.
Yeah, that's fair. And I would throw the flip side of that game. Irv Smith Jr. is kind of interesting for cheap. We haven't seen him do anything with this team yet. He's new, but like he's kind of interesting there at 3,600. So TE pool really interesting. You got your cheap guy, and I think for me my favorite pay up above Mark Andrews is going to be Hawkinson if I got to pay up. All right, let's let's get to the defenses. The piece of resistance, as they say, this week. And we have some defenses that are going up against rookies, and they're going to stand out like crazy. Let me just sort by projected ownership. Man, the Commanders are going to be 6% because they're the cheapest one. Okay.
I think they're higher than that now.
Yeah,
on DraftKings.
The ownership just. The Commanders are 13.5%. They will be the chalk.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, whether this number is correct to the final number or not, it's more whoever's the highest owned is going to be the highest owned. They could be 20% owned. I think I would want to own Commanders at like 25 or 30%. I don't like that they're chalky, but especially if you're only going to have the field at 13% on the on paper, by far best play on the entire slate from points per dollar basis. I think you go above the field. Statsational, when I did the game plan with him, which was out on Thursday morning, he was like, I get it. They're the best spot, but you can't play a chalk defense. And he's like, you just can't.
Yeah, actually, I have a better defense, and I am in 100% agreement with him. And they will be in my, they'll be in my lineups. They'll be in my player pool for sure. And they're actually in the article because they are in such a great position to do well. But how many times have we seen defenses be in the best position possible, no doubter, and they still fail? It happens all the time. And this is the one where I think like this position being so highly owned, we saw a couple times last year where high owned defenses actually did well, but I think this one could fail. Ones that I do like, that is actually a dollar for dollar, very similar price point, is the Green Bay Packers going up against Chicago in Chicago. I do like them a lot. Green Bay is an away underdog. We've seen underdogs go in and do very well last year's 2022 Millie Maker winning lineups. Another underdog that I can see actually doing well this week is the Rams going into Seattle. I could see that actually happening and putting up some good points. They've actually done it in the past. Another defense that, they're at the top of the threshold on salary, but they're in such a great spot going up against a rookie quarterback who's making his first start. It's Baltimore, if you are able to get up that high, but it's so high that it's almost in the different stratosphere and salary range.
Baltimore is a crazy good play. And I would throw Jacksonville in that mix as well. Like,
Oh, they're in there too.
Yeah.
But the Millie Maker defense that I'm kind of falling more and more towards is New Orleans this week, going up against Tennessee at home. New Orleans has a very stout defensive front. They were fourth highest defensive front in the league last year. Tennessee's offensive front is very porous.
All new offensive line. No,
exactly. So they're going to be even worse.
Really good.
So Taylor Lewan's gone. He was a force for them for many years. He's no longer with them, and they rated 29th in the league last year, and that could actually get worse this year. And then New Orleans was 11th in the league at giving up fantasy points to the quarterback position. And, Tannehill, he can give up a lot of interceptions in a given year. It's just, I think with Derek Carr in there now, and you got a high power, you got a better offensive components going on there with Carr in there. He's not a great quarterback by any stretch. Don't get me wrong. He's a game manager. But they got better offensive components there than what they had last year with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. Right. And then I think their defense just unloads here. I think Marshawn Lattimore shuts down DeAndre Hopkins this week. I know there's been some talk about DeAndre Hopkins doing well this week. I just don't see it. I think Marshawn Lattimore shuts him down.
Didn't even make my list.
Yeah. So this defense at 3.4K is $100 below, probably going to be a more chalky Jacksonville defense going up against a rookie quarterback. But I also love Jacksonville this week as well. So this is going to be my pivot off of that Jacksonville at $100
Is
less.
there? I'm trying to jump onto FanDuel right now, and it is destroying my computer. But I'm trying to jump on there to see how much that defense is, but I'm not sure I can get on here without breaking everything.
That's all right. I can.
You know what?
I can give you their salaries. I'll go onto the
what
app.
is it? I gotta close that. It's like destroying the computer. I got too many windows open apparently, but what is the salary for the Saints on FanDuel? FanDuel's really I thought I was surprised. The reason I'm asking is I was surprised to see it
4.3K on FanDuel, and Jaguars are 4.4K. The other defense, and I didn't mention them, and I know how you like to compare FanDuel to DraftKings, is Atlanta's defense with Carolina, with Bryce Young coming into town. I don't think they have it going on. Carolina has it going on. I know I have Hayden Hurst as a play on the offensive side, but I'll say this. I think the Atlanta defense will come to play here. First game at home with a brand new their quarterback, Desmond Ridder. They have no Mariota anymore. I think they come to play, and I think they shut down Carolina, and I think they could be a defense. Are they going to break the slate? I don't know. I doubt it, but I think they could actually put up high single digits into the low double digits, like a 10 or 11, and that could potentially win you a tournament.
I like it.
Just depends on how all these defenses play out.
I love the Saints call. I was nowhere even. There weren't even a hint of a thought in my mind, but the logic of it makes a lot of sense. The pay up of it will keep ownership super low. Unlike other position groups, there's probably two or three defenses that, score 12 or more fantasy points any given week. It's not like if you catch the 14 or the 18 from the slightly more expensive, like there are all these cheaper defenses that are going to do the same or better. There's only a few defenses each week that do well at all. So you do have to be generous with how you mix those in. And I like these choices. I like them all. So I think they're really sharp picks. And I think that was a great show, Burns, for our first Shark Lab breakdown. I think that was good stuff. So thank you, Burns, for breaking
this down. For us, we kept it under 2 hours.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it 45 minutes.
Yeah.
People are going to get sick of me.
We'll run through it quicker next week for everyone.
Yeah, we're going to get our formatting down, but DFS Army VIP only, Millie Maker preview breakdown article will be out probably whenever people are seeing this video. So it's not like this being recorded on Thursday. Article will probably drop on Friday, so you'll get all of the lists and all that good stuff. The Shark Chronicles article is so comprehensive. It's really an important read every single week, everybody. So make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you get Adam's book, Winning the $1 Million Game. Of course, you know where to get it. Click the link on the website or whatever. We're going to do all kinds of contests, Burns. I want to do some giveaway contests too. So let's think about that for next week.
We actually do have a big one that Tex and I put together.
There we go.
I actually went into my huge memorabilia pool and pulled out an COA Doc Gooden ball
there it is
for first place prize, a book as well. So I have more copies of the book coming my way. So I'm going to sign a few and we'll give them out as free rolls in the future.
I love it. I'll be in that contest. Try to get that Doc Gooden ball.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's full or not, but it's getting up there.
We'll promote it even when one fills. We let everybody in. So we'll make sure to post links to that in my channel as the week goes on. And yeah, let's kill it this year. I know we're taking down 1 million. I could feel it. I hope it's me. If it's not me, I hope it's you.
Me too.
Or you guys watching at home. All right, we'll see you
more
next
books.
Yeah, there we go. Sell some books. All right, take care.